Well, it's martini time, and it's been a beautiful Sunday. The temperature's in the mid-70s here in Southside Virginia. Spent a lot of time on the porch. It was only till just a few minutes. I was out reading a few minutes ago when mosquitoes appeared. So they have to eat too. So, what have I been doing here today? Well, as you know, I live a very mundane, boring life here in Blackstone, Virginia. Semi-retired photographer, kind of like the Maytag repairman. You know, I'm ready, but no one calls. So it gives me plenty of time for contemplation and meditation and study. And so today I've been studying, renewed my study. I'll say that. I picked up a book this morning, or yesterday, in my library upstairs. Hadn't read it for 10 years or so, but it was In My Own Way by Alan Watts, and it was about his life from his growing up in England until 1965. I think he was writing this in 1972. And I've read all of his books, and it was nice to read his autobiography. So he was telling you what he was doing when he wrote his books. And if you track his evolution, he goes from he was a student of Christianity and philosophy, and he discovered Eastern teachings, particularly Zen and Taoism, and he began to merge these two worlds together, the East and the West, in his own life, not as an study or academic, you see, not the study, but the alchemical transmutation of the base metal of Western civilization into a new way of looking at the world, a paradigm shift that he practiced, that he experienced, that he did, and that he expressed in his writings. So I have a great deal of, it's like looking in a mirror here when I'm talking. That's my hair. Good. So I have a great deal of affinity with Alan Watts, as well as Thomas Merton. I think Thomas Merton, I don't want to get off into Thomas Merton, but his Seven-Story Mountain, his autobiography, was perhaps the first spiritual adjustment, or just, like a chiropractic adjustment, that began to shift me into this journey to marry in my own life, in my own experience, the teachings of the wisdom teachings of the East and the West. What's happening today in America is basically the mixing of the Eastern teachings of yoga and Buddhism, Hinduism and Buddhism, with Western, not only Christianity, but also our Western materialism, our secularism, our rationalism, you see. And the problem with the secular, liberal, rational, materialistic society that we have created, particularly in America, is that while it produces great stuff, we make a lot of good stuff, a lot of great comfort, it is essentially void of meaning, void of richness, void of life. It becomes ticky-tack, it becomes mechanized, it becomes the transplanting of strip malls. We see this today in our culture. Here in Southside Virginia, we used to have rich, decades ago, there was rich local town cultures. Now it's just ticky-tack strip malls, a Walmart and a Food Line. Boop, 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 boop. Hop, skip like a rock skipping across the forest land, And the little towns are all, they've lost all of their mom and pops, the factories left. and we have franchise food chain stores in strip malls. It's all the same. And the local people are pretty much service people if they get a job, and there is no culture or art, and it's pretty much drinking, playing around, hunting, and watching TV. It's a TV culture. When we meet, we talk about TV shows. So anyway, I don't want to get off on that. I want to stay with Alan Watts. And so he's really a Zen. He was really the most popular Zen exponent in American culture. He taught and spoke and wrote and joked about and lived the teachings of Zen and Taoism, which he said were pretty much the same. The watercourse way. So he was very much into discovering the spontaneity, the spontaneous root of life. And this is why he tried becoming an Anglican priest, but he couldn't fit, because it's not spontaneous, it's ritualized. So if you look at his and I'm still working through the book. I think I got 2/3 through today. But it's going from ritualized, objective study of life. Like the British Empire, they were objectively studying life. They brought home everything from their empire and they put it in bottles and hung it on the walls, and they objectified it and studied it, you see. Very curious about the objectivity. So that's what Watts grew up in. But there was something in him that was alive and that rejected this ritualized life. And so he followed that path, just like Joseph Campbell. Follow your bliss. So he followed his bliss, and he followed his intuition. And he wasn't afraid to, when he realized that he was in a box, to leave it. I mean, he got into theological seminary and became an Episcopal priest. And he was very well known and wrote a lot of books on it. And he was invited to speak, and everyone, he loved him. And he had his own church, and it was apparently in Chicago, and I think it was a magnet. And then suddenly he realized that he was in a box, that he wasn't being real, that something in him was alive, something in him called him beyond it. He had to transcend, so he left it and took out on his own. And it was difficult because he couldn't find an academic position, because all the academic positions were objective studies, you see. And he was studying, his way of teaching was to do some objective study of a thing, but then to let it go, to let it riff, you see, and to spontaneously follow the whims of the inner nature, and to explore. And you never know where you're going to end up. And I realized reading this, that this is what I do, and this is what I communicate to you, is that I share my explorations here from my outpost in Blackstone, you see, and my studies and the movies I see. They're all touchstones, they're all adventures, they're all clues. Movies, I watched the full Monty, and today we watched this British edition of Sherlock, a modern Sherlock, and he has this photographic memory. He just looks at stuff, boom, 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 and he remembers everything. So he's kind of like a Zen awareness. He's kind of like awareness as. He's kind of like awareness of everything. And wherever he goes, he's panoramic awareness, recording everything, you see. And then he can recall it and start going back through. And he notices that, and he sees that, and he connects the dot there, and he sees that. His mind's like a computer. It's really beautiful to watch. But it's basically, he's talking about, the movie is a metaphor for Zen. or no mind, in the sense that no mind is mind that's open to everything. So it's not one mind. It's not looking at, focusing on different things and studying them. It's just this panoramic awareness, you see. And in a way, you know, and I read Alan Watson, I read this Zen stuff, you see, and I have a Zen live thing in the morning. Well, this morning I didn't feel like doing it, so I didn't. But if the impulse strikes, I'll do one now. So I don't want to. Oh, I got to do it. What am I going to say? You know, all of that. You see, that's not what I'm after. I'm after a spontaneous talk in which I share something that I'm passionate and excited about. You see, and in which I have no idea where we're going. You see, too. And that's kind of like what no mind is. It's not planned or calculated. It's just a spontaneous investigation into what one is passionately interested in, and I'm passionately interested in my life. In general, life in general, which is me, and which is you. You are life in general and in particular, you see. So each of us, we're all life, and each of us is life particular, particularly me, particularly you. But there is a field of universality here that we miss in our culture. And this is what Alan Watts, this is the scent Alan Watts follows. So I really recommend you getting his books and reading them, you see. Because he follows the scent of Zen. He follows the scent of the Dharma. He follows the scent of the totality of life, which is the watercourse way. When you're on the watercourse way of the Tao, you don't go according to a map. You don't go according to a path that's laid down, or a study, or a system. You follow your heart. You follow your scent. You're like a bloodhound following a scent. Nobody else can see it. Where's he going? What's he following? Why is he going over there? Why is he reading that? Why did he pick up that? Why? We don't know, you see, because it's not following a map. It's not following convention. When you follow the watercourse way, you have to give up the fear of what people will think. You follow what going over here, you feel like going here, and you say, well, what will people think? They won't know why I'm going here. They'll think I'm stupid. Maybe I shouldn't do that, you see. So this following the watercourse way is following the way of life, you see. And so I've been following Alan today and really getting such a surge of energy and such a surge of my own discovery in my own path, you see. Because this watercourse way is the path of the heart. It's the path of life, you see. It's the path of unfolding. It's not the path of following a map. It's not the path of following a study, you see. It's not the objective path. It's the path of the heart, you see. And so I share this with you, and I talk about the movies, because I have to share, with what I've got. and I don't have much, but so I share the clues, the books and the movies, and the way I see them, and the wide angle, because I'm a photographer, and I really like the metaphor of the two lenses, the wide angle lens and the narrow focus lens. And most of us go through life with a narrow focus lens. We don't see the wide angle. So we don't really connect everything because our lens is focused. You look at this and you look at that and you look at that and you don't see the background, because if you notice with a narrow focus lens or a zoom lens, when you zoom in on something, the background is blurred. So we never know the context of the whole. We don't know how we fit. We don't know what's going on. What's the meaning of this? It doesn't fit because we're just looking through these zoom lenses. We just zoom in on something and that's all we see. And then we imagine, oh my God, it's a snake, but it's a rope. You see? Oh my God, that's a terrorist, but it's just the guy that runs the motel. You see, this whole narrow focus lens creates anxiety and terror because we don't see the background. We have no idea what the total context is. We have no idea of the historical context. We have no idea of the whole field, you see. because we've got these, we're indoctrinated into a culture and a civilization that straps on these narrow focus lens, and the background is blurred. The background is blurred, you see. So that's fearful. What does that mean? So then I have to get into a group or a church or a religion to tell me what stuff means. I don't figure it out. I just let the Bible tell me what it means. Let the philosopher, let Trump tell me what it means. Let Hillary tell me. I don't care. You see, somebody else has got to tell me what it means, because I don't know. I have no tools. I have no practice, you see. So the thing about Alan Watts is that he is about practice and about checking things out with his inner experience. Test it for yourself. See if it tastes good. No, it doesn't taste good. I don't want it. But so it's everything. This is the parting words of the Buddha. Just don't blindly follow my teachings. Apply them to your life and see if it works. Application. See, this is the problem I had with Christianity, along with Alan Watts, is that there is no application of any teachings where you test them out to see if you work. If they work, it's all belief. You believe this and it'll work. And so you get in a group or a doctrine or a church that is a belief system, and that's it. Belief is the answer. So there's no really doubting whether it works or not and testing it out, you see. There's no practice, you see. And I think this is what brought me into yoga. Basically, when I left Christianity, I got kicked out of, I didn't get kicked out, I got rejected from seminary. And that was the end of my Christian path. Like Alan Watts, who actually became an Episcopal priest, I didn't become a Presbyterian minister, you see. Fortunately, they rejected me before I really got deep into it. Best, sorry, Charlie, you can't get to the tuna factory. Best thing that ever happened to me. You see, so they were wise. They knew I didn't fit. You know, they knew that I was not minister material, you see, because the God I'm following, the bliss I'm following, doesn't fit in a box. You know, it doesn't fit in a doctrine. It doesn't fit in the Bible. But I can read the Bible and see Zen in it, but then you can't go to church and preach that. See. So anyway, so I've been kind of high on Alan Watts today. And that's interesting because Watts is an interesting name. If you go to a fuse box, a circuit breaker in your house, you will have fuses or circuit breakers in there for different amps, you see, and wattage. And so if you plug into and you know, with the circuit breaker, if there's if a lightning strike, you get a surge of electricity and it blows your circuits. Well, Watts is like that. It's kind of like a surge of electricity. And you either get your circuit blown, you either say, I don't want to read him because he doesn't fit into my circuit, or you read him and you get a circuit blown, and then you say, wow, what was that? And then you want to go back for more. And when you go back for more, you have to keep getting, you have to enlarge your circuit so it will handle more wattage. So the process of following your bliss is simply increasing your circuit board in your mind, your brain, so you can handle more energy, more insight, more awakening, more enlightenment. And it's all basically the energy of awareness. The energy of awareness, you see. And that's why spiritual experiences given prematurely can create dysfunction in your life. I know what happened to me. You have a great spiritual experience, and you go back into your old circuit, and your fuses are blown. You know, you have to go through the process then of one by one increasing, getting bigger circuit breakers or fuses, so you can handle the energy, you see. So it's a process of blowing fuses and getting in a bigger fuse. So I can handle more energy now. I couldn't handle it before. And this is why when I come back to reading Alan Watts, I can read so much more into it than I first read. Because my circuit breaker is bigger. I can handle more energy now. I can handle more awareness. See? So that's a good measure when you go back and read something you read years before when you were younger, and you read it again, a spiritual teaching, and you see more in it. Your circuit boards handle more energy now. You've got more awareness than you had before. So there's this constant coming up against the limitations of your circuit, your karma, your habit, your habitual thinking. It comes up against limitations, and you realize you're coming up against limitations when life wants to bring in more energy, and that creates the lights start to blink and things start to hum, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to die or something. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. So we mistake stress for incoming too much energy, too much world, too much stuff coming in. So we contract, you see. But really, the only way to go is to open and to welcome it and to see what's going on, you see, and to test your circuitry, test your fuses, and put in bigger fuses. So you take in more energy, and it makes your lights brighter. It makes everything run better. You could put on more, carry a bigger load. You got more energy coming into your circuit, you can carry a bigger load. And also, once you learn how to do it, it moves faster. Evolution speeds up. What took me maybe 10 years to do now, I can get rid of in a day. Really. The mindset, an old pattern can come back, and I can blow it out in a day, where I might have lived there for 10 years before, you see. So it's kind of like that. We are in the position now of evolving our own consciousness. It's up to you. Nobody's going to evolve you for you. You have to evolve yourself. Consciousness evolves in the same way species evolved. But you remember, the evolution of species was like took a huge difference for a little bitty change in the species. So this is kind of like if you take a movie of plants growing and then speed it up. You can see the plant rising and falling and rising and falling over a process of a week, which you can't see in real time. And so, this what's happening to us today is not the evolution of the bodies, but the evolution of consciousness, and that's happening in us. Evolution of consciousness can only happen in humans. So we're in the process of evolution now, and it's a real tricky thing. We can't see where we're going. The worm can't see the butterfly. The butterfly can look back and say, "Yeah, I used to be a worm," but the butterfly is frightened to death of being a worm, of being a butterfly. You see, the worm can't see the new order. The worm, you can't see what it would be like to have a bigger circuit board that would handle more energy. But evolution will push you to it. Life will push you to it. So don't be afraid of that push. Welcome it. Invite it. Go with it. Inquire into it. Look into it. Sniff out the Dharma. Sniff out the trail of truth. Follow the scent of God, you see. Okay. Thanks for dropping in. And maybe I'll see you in the morning with Zen Live. Maybe not. We'll see how I feel.